Welcome to Day 2 coverage of Grand Prix Hartford. Maria Bartholdi here in the booth, joined by Jacob Van Lunen and, of course, Rich Hagen. It is Good Morning Magic, so we are watching some very interesting decks in our feature match area. And here we have on the right side of your screen something very interesting. Monument Sisters versus 5-color humans on the left side of your screen. All right, JVL, Monument Sisters. What is this deck trying to do?
So this deck is trying to gain a whole bunch of life using Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant. It can then buy itself enough time so that it can create lots of card advantage with combinations like Wall of Omens and White Mane Lion. Creates tons of tokens, goes very wide with Oketra's Monument, and has a finisher in the form of Archangel of Thune. Something I really like in this deck is main deck Settle the Wreckage.
Oh, that is brutal.
Yeah, it's probably just been blowing people out all weekend. I imagine that's a big part of Lucas's 6-2 record thus far.
So I've heard of Soul Sisters as a deck in Modern, and this is just kind of a different sort of twist on it.
Yeah, I think that adding Oketra's Monument to the deck gives the deck a lot of power that it didn't have before. In terms of longevity, it's going to be really hard for the opponent if they're playing something like Jund to just kill everything on the other side, because there's this endless stream of 1/1s, especially when things like White Mane Lion are an option, and Squadron Hawk also. I mean, this deck is very good against spot removal, and it's very good against aggressive creature strategies.
Looks like Lucas, though, just passed the turn back with no play on either turn 1 or turn 2. He must have had an Oketra's Monument in hand to keep a hand like that, unless he's got some reactive spell here.
Yeah, and it's important to remember he does have a good number of cards that have flash also, though.
Path to Exile, here we go, on Champion of the Parish versus Matt Mowry playing 5-color humans. Definitely one of the most represented decks here this weekend, and I think a lot of people would say one of the strongest decks in Modern right now.
I would definitely say that.
You picked it to win the whole thing.
I did. And I like Lucas's choice to use his Path to Exile on that Champion of the Parish. He doesn't play too many non-creature spells himself, and that Champion was about to get 2 +1/+1 counters. It would have gotten one from its own trigger, and then another one from the Thalia's Lieutenant trigger.
Thalia, Guardian of Thraben on the battlefield for Mowry, as well as Thalia's Lieutenant, assembling her army over there. Pass the turn back over to Lucas. See if we can't see some of his creatures in action, or potentially a monument.
Yeah, the Thalia Guardian of Thraben right now preventing Lucas from casting that Oketra's Monument that's in his hand.
Oh, you're right.
So perhaps a bit of a misstep there using Path to Exile on Champion of the Parish, but interested to see what he has here. Yeah, I believe he cannot cast that.
I think his opponent is pointing that out right now. Yep, there's a judge. I made the same mistake I did.
Yeah.
The number of times I've accidentally cast something into her, let me tell you, it's not good.
And suddenly, when we return to the overhead, there is no longer an Oketra's Monument in play. All right.
It does look like Lucas has some options here, though. I see a Wall of Omens in hand. I see a White Mane Lion.
Wall of Omens is just it's such a great card when you play with it, and it's just such a disgusting card to play against.
Yeah, it's funny because in so many matchups, it's just 2-mana draw card. The 0/4 doesn't really affect the game, but when it does, it's such a powerful effect because it essentially blanks one of your opponent's threats, replaces itself, only costs 2 mana. It also makes things that bounce your own creatures or blink your own creatures much more powerful.
The thing is, it's also not just draw a card, it's, oh look, I'm a defender, I'm a 0/4, I'm going to stop your aggro, and I'm going to draw a card.
Do you think that's what it sounds like?
That's exactly what Wall of Omens sounds like.
Yeah. If these walls could talk.
And I mean, it's not for nothing that it's going to be holding back some of Matt's creatures. Oh, Meddling Mage here from Matt Mowry.
Name Oketra's Monument.
I wonder what it could be.
Yeah. I think I might name Oketra's Monument in this spot.
Just in case. Because obviously,
punished.
in Soul Sisters, you're obviously playing Oketra's Monument.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, that's funny. All right. Phantasmal Image here from Matt as well.
Yeah, and that's going to copy the Thalia's Lieutenant, and we've seen this interaction before. It's really powerful. So the Thalia's Lieutenant that was already on the battlefield going to get 2+1 counters there. Everything else getting 1. Kind of like an overrun effect for 2 mana there.
Go on, Matt. Next turn, cast Vendilion, click, wait, then target yourself. let's just run the whole thing.
All right, back over to Lucas, whose life total has already dropped down to 11. Fantastic start here from the Humans deck.
Phantasmal as well.
Oh, very good.
And 12 points of power already on the board for Matt Mowry, and it looks like he doesn't have any casts left, but any human off the top turns that into 14 points of power on the board, and Lucas's life total is only 11. Let's see if he finds a way to get out of this.
You know, I have a question about the deck that Lucas has chosen to bring in this tournament. It kind of, for me, seems like a deck that has a big target on its back. I mean, there's lots of ways to completely destroy everything you've got going on. There's Anger of the Gods. There's sweepers in the format. What do you make of this choice right now?
I think against decks that are playing a lot of spot removal, it seems like Lucas is really well positioned. I think this is a very good matchup for Lucas, for what it's worth. I think that Lucas may have, not really thought about the Thalia interaction there with his monument and sequenced a bit differently than he might have wanted to otherwise. But I think if he had drawn his cards in a different order, this would look much different. Here we see, Soul's Attendant and a number of creatures in hand for him, and he didn't really do anything in the first turns of the game.
Sequencing must be a pretty important thing to keep in mind when you're playing this deck, especially with cards like Monument.
Oh, absolutely.
Squadron Hawk here for Lucas.
Which actually does cost 2.
Yes, it does.
Unlike the 5 mana Settle the Wreckage.
And there we have confirmation. In fact, Meddling Mage is naming a Ketra's Monument.
A bit disappointed that when we're seeing Squadron Hawk, we don't get to see it alongside Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Ha.
That's something that...
Paris 2011.
Is that the Cobblade?
Cobblade, yes. I mean, the interaction's just incredibly powerful. You put 2 Squadron Hawks back on the top of your library, you cast 1, you put the 2 cards from the top of your library back in your hand. Next turn, you brainstorm again, you do it again. When you can turn Jace's 0 into just draw 3 cards, it's pretty powerful. So Lucas is definitely going to get at least 1 more turn here.
Looks to be considering perhaps playing a creature or keeping up 2 for Path.
That's fantastic. Someone in chat, I've been following the last couple of minutes, says, I can't see the player names. I'm like, oh God, what's wrong with the stream? What have we done? I'm like, I'm looking at them. They're right there on the top of the screen. That's super weird. And they've just come back in. Oh, I see it. I was scrolled down.
Can happen to anyone. Another phantasmal image off the top here for Matt.
And that's going to represent a ton of damage here.
Yeah, great draw. Probably another Thalia's Lieutenant.
Yeah, another 6 points of power added to the table. That Path Exile going to be able to deal with a bit of it. I think Lucas may get 1 more untap step, but I don't see a card here in Lucas's deck that could really get him out of it.
And there's that Path Lucas was keeping up.
And Matt Mowry not going to be able to search his library for another basic here. The Humans deck usually only plays 1 basic land, an important thing to remember when you're playing against them if you have cards like Field of Ruin and Path Exile.
And in fact, there we see on the table, Lucas does have a Field of Ruin, card that has certainly made a home in Modern after its release. All right, Matt Mowry turning his creature sideways into the red zone. Squadron Hawk chump blocks. He's taking a lot of damage in the process.
You know what I'm really excited about? I'm really excited about Lucas playing a 5th land here and then having Settle the Wreckage. Yeah.
Do it!
Oh my gosh.
That'd be so good.
It would be very, very,
That would
very
be
good.
excellent. Come on, Lucas.
I believe.
Does he have another land in hand? Oh no, he doesn't. Sad. That would have been a blowout. I wonder if Matt would have played around it.
I doubt it.
Watch me go up to 5. Oh, look at all this.
All
Watch
right,
we go up to 7.
The sisters are in action.
We're coming back. It's a shame you play the Squadron Hawk, because then we could have just said sisters are doing it for themselves.
Mantis Rider here from Matt. Always a card you've got to be worried Humans is going to draw off the top of their library.
Talking of which, while this game continues, we must not let the broadcast go any further without acknowledging a fantastic moment with our friends down at Grand Prix Sydney.
Oh, yes.
Where Jessica Estefan, alongside Ryan Lewis-Johns and Lachlan Saunders, she became the first female winner of a Grand Prix, and that is a tremendous achievement. She was on Black Red Hollow 1 alongside Humans and Mono Green Tron in the Unified Modern GP in Sydney. Last week, 18-0. This week, the first female winner of a Grand Prix. Where will we make Magic history next? Well, the answer to that is, of course, at the pre-release next weekend for Dominaria. So congratulations to Jessica Estefan. Glorious Estefan, as I think of her.
Oh, lovely. Yes. I'm so excited for the pre-release.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lucas O'Keefe almost back to double figures. Still want Settle the Wreckage, though, don't we? I think that's basically where we're heading for.
Yeah, and how many does he play main deck? Is it
2 copies of the main. He has an additional one on the board, though.
All right, so Lucas's team is going to all fall to that attack from Matt. His life total down to 4.
Settle the Wreckage. Go on. No!
All right, he doesn't have it.
Boo.
Game 2.
It's not that we don't like you, Matt Mowry, but 5-colour Humans have seen that before. Monument Sisters, not so much. And that's because you're watching Good Morning Magic here from Grand Prix Hartford with Rich Hagan, Maria Bartholdi, and Jacob Van Lunen. Coming up in our second round, you'll have Marshall Sutcliffe and Melissa DeTore. Melissa from Inside R&D, the play design team. She's here with us as part of our commentary team all weekend long, and we'll be keeping you in touch with all the magic that matters through Good Morning Magic, 3 rounds of that, and then we'll switch to the MTG Red Zone. Now, I can tell you that when this match is done, we'll go to our first Time Warp match, and that features Jonathan Blank. Jonathan Blank, and that's his actual second name. It's not that we don't know it yet, we just fill it in later. He is playing, he is playing a Madcap Experiment list. It's blue-red, and he's got Platinum Empyrean, so that the idea is that you cast Madcap Experiment, you rattle through your library, you've only got the Platinum Empyrean to find, and then because Platinum Empyrean basically means you can't lose, you're then in a position where all the life that you would have lost through the Madcap Experiment, well, it's not Madcap anymore, it's just an experiment and you already know the outcome. It's that bad things happen for your opponents. He has successfully got to 6-2 overnight, so we'll be seeing him in action at the end of this opening match. We've also got some... I was about to say stonking again, but I've used up my supply for the day.
Yes, you get one, Rich.
I get one, so okay.
One stonk.
But one stonk. It's a stonk, is it? Okay. But in round 10, it's going to be Naya time, because we have a really interesting Naya Titan shift list to show you that is currently at 7-1 overnight, and also Naya Evolution. That's with Eldritch Evolution, of course. So that's the plan for the first couple of rounds. And then by the end of Good Morning Magic, we should have one perfect record at 11-0,
Wow.
somewhere around there. So that's the plan for the morning. Meanwhile, JVL, I assume that you've got deck lists for these two fine gentlemen.
I do.
So what's going on in terms of sideboarding?
So I, in the beginning of the match, was already excited for post-board games where Matt Mowry would have access to Is It Staticaster. That card is going to be incredible here. It can deal with either of the sisters. It can deal with Squadron Hawks, just an incredibly powerful card in a matchup like this. It deals with all the tokens that the Monument can make. That's something that Lucas is really going to have to worry about. He's going to have to save a removal for Is It Staticaster if he wants to succeed in post-boarded games against 5-color Humans. On the other side of things, Lucas has an additional copy of Settle the Wreckage, a card that we were already excited to see in the first game that we didn't get an opportunity to. Lucas also has a single copy of Blessed Alliance. So Lucas's sideboard doesn't have a ton of cards, but I think it's because his Game 1 matchup here should be very, very good.
Little trivia about these players here. Matt Mowry, longtime GP player, made top 64 of GP DC and U.S. Nationals last year. Lucas O'Keefe Summer playing in his first GP, his first day 2 from New York.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool to make day 2 on your first GP.
That is a superb achievement.
Absolutely.
You show playing your own deck.
Yeah,
Makes
exactly.
day 2.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. Jay, interesting about the Monument. I've not seen the Monument Sisters list play out. In general, though, he's about to be on the play. Start with 7 cards, lay a land 6, play a Soul Warden 5, draw a card back up to 6, play a land 5, cast, let's say, Soul's Attendant 4, draw a card 5, play the 3rd land 4, play a Ketra's Monument 3. At that point, a Ketra's Monument, there's only 3 cards sitting in hand. So are you going to see him run out a turn 1 Soul Warden and a turn 2 Soul's Attendant? Or is the goal to start on turn 3 and then on turn 4 go 1 drop, 2 drop, gain life, gain 2 life, gain 3 life, that kind of thing?
So I think he does want to curve out. Once he has the Oketra's Monument in play, cards like Wall of Omens are very good at digging through the library, and cards like White Mane Lion allow him to essentially spend as much white mana as he has access to create that many 1/1 tokens. It'll be a thing that's quite similar to Thopter Sword combo, if you've seen that before, where each 1 mana that Lucas is able to spend is going to represent another token from the Oketra's Monument. Squadron Hawk also functions very similarly.
Now, he also has, is it 2 copies of Sky Hussar?
He does have 2 copies of Skystar, which he cannot cast.
Right, so this is a mono-white deck with a white-blue card. I'll tell you what, let me drag up Sky Hussar for you.
Yeah, this has Forecast, I believe is the name of the ability,
right.
and you tap a pair of untapped white creatures.
All right, so he's got 2 copies of this, 5 mana, but that doesn't matter because he can't ever cast it. But Forecast says tap 2 untapped white and or blue creatures. Well, it's just white, reveal it, draw a card. You only get to do it once. I say only.
Oh, dang.
It is literally a card advantage engine every single turn once it's underway. So he'll never run out of things to cast and gain life from, is the theory.
That's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. All right, we're away. Off you go, Maria.
All right, here we go. Soul Warden into play for Lucas O'Keefe Summers and his Monument Sisters deck. Kept 6. Matt Mowry kept 7. Ether Vial turn 1 play for Mowry here. Equally powerful play from his deck.
Yeah, both players seem to be doing exactly what they want to be doing with their first few turns here.
And there's a land that's pretty interesting from Lucas. Emeria the Sky Ruin. Another Soul Warden here for Lucas. Gaining some life early turns.
And getting these Soul Wardens onto the battlefield very early is quite good against the Humans deck, because now every creature that Matt Mowry puts onto the battlefield will also gain Lucas life. So this is going to buy him a ton of time.
And there's a look at Emeria the Sky Ruin, which is pretty useful in Lucas's deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if anybody had any shenanigans killing your creatures at any point in the game, well, just tap it. Creature's back.
And when we're watching this matchup, something that we're going to need to remember is that the longer the game goes on, the more it should favor Lucas. So if Lucas has this pair of Soul Wardens and they're going unanswered, if Matt does not have an Is It Staticaster, then it's likely that Lucas will have enough time to be able to cast something huge like a Settle the Wreckage, or put together something like Oketra's Monument alongside a White Mane Lion.
All right, so there is a Meddling Mage from Matt Mowry, not naming the monument. This time he actually named Path to Exile. I think another good name from Matt. Ooh, he does have a Settle in hand, I think.
I think you're right.
Yep, you are correct.
I'm sorry, I'm so evil. The blowout is just too good, though.
It is way too good.
And of
I
course,
don't think I've won a single game of Modern where my opponents cast Settle the Wreckage against me, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
It has a 100% win rate against you.
Yes.
What deck have you been settled from? Is that how I'm supposed to put it? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
No,
Just
he's
Guy
been
Control has
unsettled.
settled me. Yeah.
That's what's happened.
Oh, yeah.
These Vial draws are really powerful from Humans. They usually allow the deck to unload very quickly. At this point, Matt may be having a number of 3-drops clogged in his hand post-board. That can be a problem sometimes for playing the Humans deck.
Phantasmal Image here. with the vial. It's going to copy Meddling Mage. This one I can imagine might be naming Oketra's Monument, or if he's savvy, Settle.
If he named Settle the Wreckage, he's a genius. Or maybe he just played next to Lucas yesterday.
Yeah.
I do not believe that's what was chosen.
Okay. Sarah Ascendant is the card named with the second mage, which is a very popular card to play in Soul Sisters, obviously. It's one of the win conditions of the deck. Is Lucas playing that card?
He is not.
Okay. So Matt Mowry, making a call.
Swing and a miss.
What are you going to do?
That's one of the advantages of playing a deck like Monument Sisters in a format where people are playing Meddling Mage at the rate that they are. You're going to have a lot of opponents that just name wrong cards against you.
So this is the monument, presumably, here.
There it is, Oketra's Monument from Lucas O'Keefe Summer. Excited to see this monument kind of get online and start doing his thing in his deck. Those 2 Soul Wardens in play could end up being pretty backbreaking for Matt. Ether Vol here on 1 and another on 3. Whew, that's scary.
Yeah, very scary. And here, what's even scarier is that now there's a vial on 3, and we know that Matt Mowry has his Staticaster in his sideboard.
Hard to attack into both of those vials when you're playing against humans.
A lot of the time you need to wait until your opponent doesn't have anything left in their hand.
Matt here considering whether he wants to vial something out right now. All right, we'll use the 1. Champion of the Parish here from Mowry. And the 3. Reflector Mage.
Yeah, so Lucas going to get to gain 4 from that pair of actions out of Matt.
Not the 3 drop that completely hoses Lucas there, but sets him back a little bit. Soul Warden bounced back to his hand.
And Matt's attacking for 9 damage. Yeah, so Lucas has gained enough life where he's still at 15. It's not that big of a deal for him.
All right, back over to Lucas. I don't see a 4th land.
You know, one thing that's nice about Lucas' deck also is it's off the wall enough where when he leaves open that 4 mana for Settle the Wreckage, where other decks, it might seem fishy. For him, his opponents are probably thinking to themselves, oh, he has Restoration Angel. That's what I would think.
All right, Lucas here, though, because of this Oketra's Monument, may be able to build back up his board and gain enough life with that Soul Warden that he negates the damage that was done last turn, essentially.
Yes, a single Squadron Hawk or White Mane Lion would do a lot for Lucas right now. Be able to buy him a ton of time.
Did he just say go?
He did.
Well, he can't cast that Soul Warden. He can't cast that Settle the Wreckage.
I think he has at least 1 Path Exile Strand in his hand there.
Yeah, he must.
Feels like we're getting little glimpses of what might be from the Monument Sisters deck and nothing that it actually is.
All right, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben here from Matt. Spent with lands, but we know we don't always need lands to cast our creatures in humans. There's a Phantasmal Image and a Handshake from Lucas O'Keefe Summer, who unfortunately his deck did not get to do its thing in the feature match area, but Well done to him, making day 2 of his first Grand Prix an excellent achievement.
Yeah, it certainly is, and still 6 rounds to go, so 12-3 a possibility. But in any case, he gets to play out day 2. Matt Mowry, meanwhile, advances to 7-2 and is live for the top 8 right now. So we'll come back to the booth. That's our first match done. Sorry, of course, it's live sport, for want of a better term, and it doesn't always work out the way we want. It's not always down to the buzzer beater. In the end, about as close as we came was where's that settle the wreckage? Never got there.
I mean, I still felt like there was a lot of tension in that game because Matt had no idea that there was this, monster looming underneath the water. And if that one land had been drawn, if he had been able to cast Settle the Wreckage, it would have been this huge blowout. So there was this tension where Matt felt completely safe. He felt like he was just running his opponent over. And meanwhile, there was this great drama happening
Was that done
in the hand of his opponent.
Yes,
So
but he didn't even know.
Yeah,
So
it was great.
Are you making Settle the Wreckage the card of the round, despite the fact that it never got cast?
No, I'm
Okay.
making Thalia the card of the round.
The
I think
Guardian
that
of Thraben.
I think Thalia was the most important card there in game 1 by a lot. I think that even in game 2, that Thalia, if it had not been lethal on that turn, would have prevented a settle on the following turn. So really powerful card out of humans that even against decks that are mostly creatures, turns out this card's very powerful.
So Thalia, spoiler of fun, the card of the round for round number 9.
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. The sad news is that our first match wasn't super exciting, but the good news is there's a lot more where that came from. So we're going to turn our attention after the break to the Madcap experiment. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. That should be fun. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us, and thanks for being up wherever you are around the world for Good Morning Magic. Rich, Maria, JVL here. We've had our first somewhat disappointing match, but what can you do? Just turned out the matchup wasn't great and just never got there for the Settle the Wreckage. Thalia got in the way. There it is. We've got another match for you. Let's see whether this one can go a bit more according to the deck brewer's plan. It's time for blue-red. It's time for Platinum Experiment. Here's Maria and JVL with the call.
Jonathan Blank, there you see it on the left side of your screen, playing Platinum Experiment versus Edward Sockol playing Burn. Both players currently on 6 and 2. Platinum Experiment is making use of Madcap Experiment. Talk about this deck.
So this deck plays similarly to a lot of the Blue Moon decks that we've seen played at various Modern Pro Tours over the years. The win condition here is Madcap Experiment into Platinum Empyrean. Now, Madcap Experiment makes you reveal cards off the top of your library until you reveal an artifact. You put the artifact into play, and then it deals damage to you equal to its converted casting cost. The thing is, or the number of cards you reveal, I'm sorry. The thing about this is that Platinum Empyrean says that your life total cannot change. So when it enters the battlefield, it does not deal any damage to you, and you have this 8/8 that essentially prevents you from losing the game. And you use your control cards, you attack with an 8/8, eventually you win the game.
And not having your life total change seems like a pretty good card to have against a deck like Burn.
Absolutely. In Game 1, it's very unlikely that the Burn deck will have any way to get a Platinum Empyrean off the battlefield. And I think that here, Jonathan Blank, as long as he can survive until the 4th turn and cast a Madcap Experiment, he's going to be looking very, very good. This is probably one of his best matchups.
So this is kind of a Blue Moon deck as well, JVL?
Yeah, so against a lot of decks, the main plan is to resolve a Blood Moon. And then you use control elements, you deal with their other basic lands, and you kind of act as a prison deck in that fashion.
So Platinum Empyrean, sort of like game plan number 1. If not, we can just Snapcast or bolt them out if we need to.
Yeah, the deck plays Lightning Bolts, it plays Snapcaster Mages, it plays a V-Click, so it can play the blue-red tempo game very well also. It doesn't have to win with the Madcap Experiment.
Meanwhile, Burn here sitting on 1 land, unable to kind of stick anything versus Jonathan Blank, although his life total is at 13 currently. A couple of bolts in the graveyard already.
And being stuck on 1 land with Burn is usually not the end of the world in the early turns of the game. 'Cause essentially, you can empty your hand very quickly as soon as you draw that 2nd land. However, against a blue-red deck like this one that plays 4 copies of Remand, you end up turning cards like Remand that are normally miserably bad against you into very powerful, almost Time Walk-like effects.
All right, here we go. Jace, the Mind Sculptor from Jonathan Blank. Talk about why this card has helped improve this deck, JVL.
Yeah, and I think that this card is kind of the story of the blue-red Experiment deck, because blue-red Experiment previously, sometimes you draw Platinum Empyrean, which is miserably bad. I mean, we're talking about an 8-mana card that you're playing in Modern. Not really something you want to be doing. But with Jace the Mind Sculptor, you can just put it back on the top of your library. And then you can cast that Madcap Experiment, put it into play. You don't have to worry about having drawn it. Just a really powerful effect to have in any blue-red deck, but especially strong when you're playing against, or when you're playing with this particular combo.
All right, Jonathan Blank. Life total getting a little low. Use Jace there to Fate Seal Edward. Another Rift Bolt here on suspend. No 2nd land yet. Jonathan made pretty sure of that.
And from the looks of it, it looks like Jonathan Blank is just going upstairs with this Jace.
Giving the Burn player a taste of their own medicine here.
I hope we get to see Jace the Mind Sculptor go ultimate here.
That would be pretty sick.
You're getting there.
Look at this.
9 and counting.
All right, so he's going to Fate Seal yet again, put a card on the bottom of Edward's library.
Congratulations, Blue Chess Mimic in chat, who's correctly worked out. First time I started Fate Sealing an opponent, I knew I was blue forever.
Where were you when you played your first Fate Seal? All right, Snapcaster Mage here from Blank. Used on a Remand. And there's that Rift Bolt coming back. This is exciting.
Yeah, Jonathan has successfully navigated this game, figured out that as long as he would be able to keep Edward on a single land, his cards like Remand, his cards like Snapcaster Mage should become very powerful in a matchup where they're normally not very good. And he was able to engineer that, put it all together, and now it looks like he is going to be able to go ultimate with Jace the Mind Sculptor. And I believe with that Serum Visions, Jonathan just put a Madcap experiment on the top of his library. So it looks like he might be winning
Excellent.
on multiple avenues.
Dear Matthew Mowry, please take note. Edward Sockol was kind enough to only play with one land, so we could see what the deck did. Why weren't you?
So just in case, you've been living under a rock and you're not quite sure, Jace's ultimate, exile all cards from target player's library, then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library, essentially ending the game.
Is that what it does? Wow.
It's pretty powerful.
That seems really good.
Not messing around. He'll sculpt your mind whether you like it or not.
And Edward hasn't really had a shot here. I mean, Edward's used all of his mana every turn and still only successfully cast a few spells.
So he wasn't throwing away his shot.
No, I think Edward played the game as well as he could have.
Exactly 50% of the booth understood that reference.
I'm part of the other 50%.
I'm well aware of this, Jacob.
We'll go listen to the soundtrack after this.
All right.
Yeah, that's confused him even more now.
All right. We have to throw away the Skullcrack. Edward just laying his cards out on the table. Here we go.
This is just too much.
Just clarify for me. Did we just swap 2 D6s for a D12 because Jace was at 11?
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I have a sneaking feeling that's not a D20.
Ooh, here's Madcap Experiment from Jonathan Blank. Boros Charm here.
But no.
Nope. Remand. Oh, come on, Edward.
What was that about?
Let us see it happen. All
Weak.
right. That's fine. Jonathan Blank picking up game 1 here in this, our Time Walk match for round 9.
And conveniently enough, we get straight into game number 2 because it is Time Walk. So Goblin Guide opens up for Edward Sockol.
Post-board, Edward Sockol does get 4 copies of Destructive Revelry, which he will most certainly want in a matchup like this. If Jonathan does tap out on his 4th turn for a card like Madcap Experiment, Edward can kind of get a complete and total blowout where he spends 2 mana as opposed to his opponent's 4, and deals Jonathan 2 damage, destroys the Platinum Empyrean, and presumably wins the game on the spot.
Madcap Experiment is the draw here for Blank. Serum Visions. This deck is pretty cool, I've got to say, JBL.
Yeah, I mean, it plays a lot of powerful spells. All of these blue-red control or tempo strategies are really powerful. I think at the Pro Tour, one of the biggest things that we learned was that these decks are very strong. The baseline of card of Lightning Bolts, Snapcaster Mages, Remands, V-Click. This is a very powerful shell, and whatever you choose as your finisher, you're going to have a lot of success if this is the type of deck you want to pilot.
It's too early in the morning for abbreviations, Jacob. V-Click. The what
Vendilion
now?
Click.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Just in case, it is just possible that some people out there didn't know what that was. Yeah, so Vendilion Click, the 3/1 flash flyer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Lets you take a look at your opponent's hand or your own hand and replace one of the cards.
Goblin Guide continues to crash in here from Edward. dropping blank down to 14.
Yes, no cache override. It's not called V clicky clackety.
And here, Edward is leaving open 2 mana in case Jonathan is able to play a mountain and then cast Blood Moon, so that he can float 2 mana and cast Destructive Revelry to deal with the Blood Moon if he needs to. So some tight play there from Edward. Edward, this Grim Lavamancer on the battlefield now. I like that Torment art for Grim Lavamancer.
It is
Classic.
cool.
Yeah. Playing with some lava. It's dangerous.
Mancing some lava, if you will. In comes the Goblin Guide yet again. Jonathan blank down to 12. Take some more pain here.
The other thing Edward is doing that is very good here is that shows a strong understanding of control matchups in general, is that Edward is not using his mana when Jonathan has open mana. Instead, deciding that he wants to maximize efficiency and give Jonathan as few opportunities as possible to use his mana efficiently.
And there we see an Abrade on the Goblin Guide. Can you tell me why he chose Goblin Guide to take down instead of that Grim Lavamancer?
I think the main difference there is that the Goblin Guide has 2 power, whereas the Grim Lavamancer only has 1. Grim Lavamancer, while it's good at picking off the 1 toughness creatures in Jonathan Blank's deck, that's not really how he's expecting to lose the game.
Here we have an Electrolyze. We're going to do 2 to Jonathan in response.
Once again, Nicholas Picker, please report to the red stage.
And things are not looking bad for Jonathan here, even though he's just been sitting around and taking hits from the Goblin Guide. Edward seems to have drawn a lot of lands and a decent number of reactive spells. I think there are multiple copies of Destructive Revelry in Edward's hand. So Edward here, it kind of drew too many of his sideboard cards, which is a problem that can happen when you're playing a deck like Burn. The goal in deck construction when you're playing something like Burn is to have all of your cards kind of do the same thing. So when you sideboard in a bunch of reactive cards, then you draw multiple copies of them, you can often get punished in that way. I think that Edward could steal this game still. What I would imagine would happen to see us watch him steal this game is that Jonathan goes for a Madcap experiment with 1 spell to protect it, and then is caught off guard by the fact that Edward actually has multiple copies of Destructive Revelry.
Right, and enough mana to cast them both, which certainly wasn't the case last time round.
Edward, however, only has 1 green source in the battlefield, so that's something we're going to have to watch out for.
Blank here down to 10 with that fetch. All right, here we go. Going for it. Madcap experiment.
Excellent.
Oh, there it was.
Yeah, the top one.
And there's the Destructive Revelry. And there's the counter.
Yep.
Certner at
And
spell
here we
snare.
go. Boom, the second one.
Get it gone.
Platinum Empyrean down.
Platinum Empyrean.
You were sitting on that one, weren't you, Rich?
No, I just dreamt it up right then.
Excellent. Eidolon of the Great Revel here from Edward.
Quite a lot happened in that last 10
Yes,
seconds
that
or
was,
so.
that was cool. Just like you drew it up, JBL. Bolt. Down goes the Eidolon.
Not the end of the world here for Edward. I mean, even though his opponent had the removal spell there for the Eidolon of the Great Revel, he still took some damage there.
Blank down to 6. Passes back to Edward. 2 cards in hand. Soon to be 3. Another Eidolon. But that looks to be about it.
Yeah, Edward here drew 7 lands. Not what you want to be doing when you're playing this burn tech. And he drew more lands than he did spells. And seeing open Cryptic Command mana, Edward does not want to... we're seeing just a whole bunch of open blue mana. Edward doesn't want to use his last spell instead wants to take advantage of having all those lands by trying to double spell on a single turn, play around counter magic.
All right, let's see if we can do it again. Madcap experiment, here we go.
All right.
Well, this Platinum Empyrean
I think is going to stick around.
probably going to be around, yeah.
Where are you, my robot friend?
Is he a robot?
I
I
mean,
guess he's kind of a
I
robot.
don't know. I call Karn a robot, and he's not really a robot either. Wow. Is it the last card? Unbelievable.
Excellent. Excellent.
Edward's like, yeah, well, I might as well look at what's in your deck.
Yeah.
I might draw Destructive Revelry in my next turn and have a shot to win this game.
How many does he have?
4.
Oh, okay. I love it. It's always the last card, isn't it?
Yeah. That's exactly where you want it, right?
Yeah.
If Jonathan had the option to stack his deck, he'd put both of them as the bottom 2 cards.
And the young Pyromancer down alongside.
All right, so now we have an Eidolon of the Great Revel and a Lightning Bolt in Edward's hand. And there's the Eidolon.
It's probably not going to be enough, is it?
Probably not.
Swinging in for 8 here.
I'm actually surprised that Edward didn't chump there, though. I think Edward, he still needs a way to win the game. So I guess it's very reasonable to not chump. He needs to be able to actually get a trigger if he does draw the Destructive Revelry on the following turn.
Blood Moon here from Blank.
And that's likely going to be it, because once that Blood Moon sticks,
Yeah.
Edward no longer has a way to get the Platinum Empyrean off the battlefield unless he combines 3 different burn spells to do so. And with only 1 burn spell that can target a creature in his hand, he just won't have enough turns to do it.
And there's the handshake, Jonathan Blank, and Platinum Experiment takes down that match 2-0 here in round 9.
Well, 1 for 2 then. Not too bad. Not too bad. We got to see that one in action doing its thing. Didn't get Monument Sisters doing their thing, but we got to see the Madcap Experiment very definitely going all out there. So that advances to 7 and 2. Now, we're just about at time on the round, and rounds do tend to go pretty swiftly between on day 2s. But I reckon we can squeeze in a little bit more magic. So on our third table, we had one of the 8-0 matchups. So 2 of the players who didn't taste defeat yesterday at all. This is Frank Skarren and Pat Cox. So don't know how long this is. Not sure how much of this we're going to be able to bring you. But we might as well take a little bit of look in and do some bonus magic from. So why don't we go, say in my ear, Rashad, how many games did we get? Why don't we show you Game 3 and see what happens? Let's do that. Here we go. So they split the first 2, obviously. We've got 5-color humans for Pat Cox, Affinity for Frank Skarren, and here with the call on this deciding game is JVL, and first, Maria Bartholdi.
All right, here we go. Turn 1 for Affinity on the play. Let's see how much of my hand I can dump onto the battlefield. Pretty well done. Pretty well done there from Frank Skarren.
And that's going to be tough for Pat Cox. A Steel Overseer on turn 1 means that it's going to be a while before Pat is able to Reflector Mage that off the battlefield. And when that card goes unanswered for a few turns, it's very, very likely that the Affinity deck just runs away with the game.
Do you like Affinity in this matchup straight up?
I do. I think Affinity is, reasonably favored. The Dismember from Pat, this is a sideboard card. The Humans deck usually plays 2 copies of it post-board. That's a really important card for Pat to have there. If he did not have one of those 2 Dismembers, that Steel Overseer could have just won the game by itself.
All right, back over to Frank. All right, another threat. Deal with this, Pat Cox.
And Edge Champion, not a card that Pat's really going to be able to deal with ever.
Right.
So Pat now just needs to essentially create enough power that he can win the race with Frank, because the Edge Champion is only a 2-2 right now. So if Pat's able to dodge something like a cranium plating, then he can definitely find his way back into this game.
All right, there's an Ether Vial from Pat Cox. Back over to Frank Skarren. In comes the Etched Champion. Inkmoth Nexus. And how about another one? Yikes.
Yeah, and this is pretty formidable here, because Pat's going to be taking 4 turn from these Edge Champions, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah. As a person who plays creature decks, seeing that card is just... it hurts.
So actually, looking at Pat's list, he does have a way to block the Edge Champion in the form of Whirler Rogue.
Wow.
Yeah, a card I've not seen in the Humans deck.
Is that in his main deck?
It is in his main deck, yes.
Whirler Rogue. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 Thopters. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn.
Yeah, 2/1/1 colorless Doctors.
Yes.
Being the important bit in there. Yeah.
And he could presumably then copy those with phantasmal images and create cards that could block these Etch Champions and get them off the table. Doesn't seem like the most likely scenario, but that's how I see Pat getting out of this, if there's a way it could happen.
And there's Thali's Lieutenant. In comes the Freebooter.
And that Galvanic Blast likely going upstairs, going to put Pat down to 4, and now 4 points of protection from everything power.
Frank Skarren. Oh. Ether Vial Phantasmal Image.
I'm going to copy
there we
an
go.
Edge Champion.
There we go. Skarren here with Welding Jar.
Yeah, and Frank Skarren, a really tight play here. The Phantasmal Image is copying the Etch Champion, but Frank is able to use that Welding Jar to regenerate the Etch Champion that is copied by Phantasmal Image, and because it's a Phantasmal Image, the Welding Jar will actually kill the creature, and then Pat no longer has a blocker, and Frank wins the game.
Wow, that was
really cool play there.
That is. So 13 players were 8-0, so therefore 6 or 7 will be at 9-0, 3 or 4 will get to 10-0, and then around about lunchtime we'll finally have our last perfect record in the building. You'll see that here live. So that wraps up round number 1 from Good Morning Magic. Not a bad way to start the day. Also not a bad way to start the day is Marshall Sutcliffe and Melissa DeTora. They'll be here for round number 2, and I might hang around because I'm glued to the chair basically, and we'll show you round number 10 as it happens live, but that's coming up after these messages.
So Magic the Gathering Arena, we chose that word arena very particularly because an arena is a place where people gather, where people come to compete, where people come to spectate and cheer on their favorites. It really is a place where the whole community can come together and experience the very best of what Magic has to offer.
everyone. Welcome to round 2 of day 2. It's Good Morning Magic, or as it says, there we are, I see it's Good Morning Magic. Yeah. Now it's Good Magic with Rich Hagan, Marshall Sutcliffe, and Melissa Dottora. Melissa, you were with us all day yesterday. How was day 1 for you?
It was fun. We saw a lot of interesting decks. We saw some KCI combo that was... It didn't really work, though, but it was fun to see.
You know, that was the only time he lost yesterday.
Matt Nass?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, he's 7-1.
Yeah.
That's so
and
unfortunate.
of course he was in the top 8 of the last GP with this deck. So yeah, that I think what excited them, because Sam Pardy was on that deck at the last GP as well, and they were super excited about the intricacies of, there was some real deep combo stuff that was going on inside there. And a lot of the time opponents are just sitting on the other side going, you're doing... Show me that again.
Yeah.
It's wet. Oh, okay.
The most exciting match I saw all day, though, was the Hollow One match between Huey and Mike Segrist.
Oh, right.
I wasn't commentating on that. I was just watching it.
Right.
But in Game 3, Mike Segrist got